It's not that I'm not as strong into it as you are. This is me.
No, and I can't lie, I can't be in my... I'm serious. I'm just always the f***ing nice guy. That's what f***ing me up. I'm too f***ing nice. It be f***ing me up. I'm too f***ing nice. I'm too f***ing nice.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie Anya, Steph Anya for short. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Today we're going to be breaking down everything we saw unfold between KB and Edmond on season 9 of Love is Blind. If you're curious, stay tuned. What's on your mind? Before we get into the video, let's take a second to thank today's sponsor, which is Growth Therapy. The way I heard about it originally was from my sister. She said that she found her perfect therapist and she loved the platform. And when it was time for me to move into private practice, she highly recommended that I look into it. I was so happy once I started working with Growth Therapy because I really felt that the platform made it so much easier to focus my time and energy on working with my clients. So it makes me a more effective therapist. It's easy to communicate with my clients. It's easy to provide them with the resources that they need. What's wonderful about Growth Therapy is that it accepts most insurance plans, including in a lot of states, Medicaid. You're also able to choose your own therapist and you can narrow it down based off of your preferred demographic. So many different qualifiers so that you can find the perfect therapist that is within network for your insurance. If you're interested in trying Growth Therapy for yourself, please use the QR code on the screen or go to growththerapy.co/Stephania. The link is in the description box. And now let's get back into the video. KB and Edmond are hands down probably the most talked about couple on Love is Blind from this season. This has been my most highly requested video, and there's a little bit of pressure that comes with that because I do think that I have a perspective on them that I really haven't seen too much of, and I'm a little bit nervous about what you guys are going to think, so stay with me. I'm going to talk about really what both of them contributed to this relationship because I see really heavy opinions on one side or the other, and I really think that they both contributed to the ultimate downfall of the relationship. First, let me say that with KB and Edmond, I do feel like they were one of the only couples where I really didn't question either of their intentions. I truly do believe that both of them were looking for their forever person, and both of them were looking to get married and hoping to get married. I truly do believe that. I think that what ended up happening is that we had a bit of a value mismatch between the two of them, which really made them incompatible, but I never doubted that either of them were there for the right reasons. Some of the things that really made these two stand out was some of the similarities in their backgrounds or the way that their backgrounds could complement one another. So KB does talk about the fact that she does travel social work, and Edmond shares about having a history being in foster homes as a child.
Growing up, I was in the foster care system all my life, being with multiple families. Like not having a permanent family, this is my chance to like build that with someone.
So those two things do correlate.
I was in a foster care system growing up and stuff.
Oh my gosh, I want a nonprofit group home.
However, what you'll already see, which is what I see playing out over the course of their relationship, one person is in the supporting or helping role for the other person who's needing the support. Then Edmond told her that he's a realtor, he works in real estate, and KB says that's perfect.
I was a property manager, decided to leave and do what I was really passionate for, was be in real estate.
I can literally intertwine your job into what I want to do next because I want to get into Section 8 homes.
So there were a lot of correlations in terms of their values there, which I thought it made sense for them to continue talking. And KB tells Edmond that she finds him very intriguing because of these connections. Also, both grew up without stability from both parents. So KB talks about not having her father and how she really doesn't believe that he's ever loved her. So it's hard to forgive a person where you don't have that understanding.
I don't talk to my dad. He was absent father. Like I'm having to grieve someone that's still here and someone that I really wanted a relationship with and someone that I've told on multiple occasions how I feel. Why did you ever feel like it was okay to stop being a father? When you said, you know that she loves you. And I think that's the problem for me. I don't know that from him. It made me have to be so strong when I didn't want to be strong.
Edmond, on the other hand, has had inconsistency from both of his parents, but it seems like he actually has gotten to a point where he says that he has forgiven them.
Because I know she loves me. I love her no matter what. I don't want her to miss out on like my life and her grandkids, all because like the past. I just approach it with a positive mindset. no matter what, that's my mom.
And so again, we've got these similar backgrounds. When you've missed that consistency with the primary relationship, it can impact what you look for and how you navigate relationships. Now, something that I thought was really important that Edmond says in the first pod date that we see with them is that he says that he actually grew up without crying and that over the years he's learned how to be comfortable with crying.
I'm getting better with my emotions and stuff. Like, I think, like, just growing up, like, you gotta be tough and, like, don't cry. But now, like, I'm getting better with crying. Like, it's nothing wrong with crying.
At all. You're more of a man if you cry, if you ask me.
And I think this is extremely important for what we see playing out in their relationship over time, where KB says that she believes that Edmond uses tears manipulatively.
Crying in the pods for me didn't bother me. But when we got into the real world, it was the moments that he would cry. Instead of like being accountable, you cry, you drop to your knees and say, I just love you so much. I just need you. You're the one for me. That's when I started thinking, okay, this is manipulation.
We'll talk a little bit more about where she's seeing that and what my thoughts are about that. Now, we cannot overestimate the odd or eccentric behaviors that we saw from Edmond. He does describe himself as having high energy.
I'm really energetic, and like when I'm with kids, like all you gotta do is have fun and be a kid.
We see him running like he's doing track. We see him running up and down the hall. We saw him kissing the floor. And I think this is one of those moments where people really started getting concerned about his mental state and his behavior. I can't really give a lot of answers to that because I don't know these people. I can't diagnose them with anything. I can't say, oh, this is a sign of autism or this is a sign of psychotic episode. I don't feel confident making any statements like that. What I can say is that we know for sure that Edmond comes from a traumatic background. And I know that when we're dealing with trauma, we have different ways of dealing with or addressing that trauma in ways that can bring us comfort in high stress situations. I think that Edmond tends to regress, which is a defense mechanism. Defense mechanisms help shield us from situations that can be too vulnerable or too abnormal. They're anxiety provoking. And we use defense mechanisms to keep ourselves safe and okay. And so with defense mechanisms, what we typically see, especially for men, and I'll go even further to say, especially for Black men, what I've seen is that they typically rely on repression for their go-to defense mechanism. So they'll say that everything's okay. They don't want to ramp things up, even in situations where they may be stressed or overwhelmed. They're saying everything's okay. So we see repression happening a lot. That might be how they learn not to cry. That's how they learn the appropriate and inappropriate type of touch with other men, for example. That's where they learn the things that make society view them as manly. And so for Edmond, I think that he may actually default to regression, where he's actually enacting how a child may respond to certain stressors. So what we'll see with Edmond is that he's very earnest. It seems like he's telling his absolute truth in a moment, and he's not very good at pulling it back and just doing what would be considered socially acceptable for dealing with difficult emotions. So for example, when Annie breaks up with Brendan is having a hard time with that emotionally, but the only person who's really loud about it in the room is Edmond.
Yo, I hate seeing this from you like this, bro. I can't even, I'm afraid to look at you, because when I see you, I'm gonna like, because it hurt me to even look at you. I hate seeing you go through this, bro. It just hurt to look at you. All I can do, when I see you, I just wanna cry.
He's crying. He's saying, I hate seeing you like this. It's hard to look at you. A lot of the guys in the room may be feeling that way, but they're not vocalizing it like that. And I think that Edmond, he's to the extreme in that he vocalizes everything on his mind without really being able to accurately estimate how his words or actions are going to impact the people around him. I think he made that moment more uncomfortable for Brendan, more awkward for everyone else there. But in that moment, he's just releasing his emotions and trying to be as open as possible about how he's feeling, whether or not it's appropriate. I think this is very different than what we see later, where KB says that Edmond is manipulative. I think that for manipulation, you have to have some intention or strategy. And that's not to say that there aren't times where the tears may work in his favor, right? Maybe they're deflecting from an issue, but I don't think that's the core reason why Edmond is often crying. I think a lot of it has to do with difficulty with emotional regulation due to regression. We see this sometimes in severe cases where, let's say you have a child who's really traumatized, they might start doing things like wetting themselves again, because going back into a more infantile state, the last time they were maybe remember feeling cared for or prioritized, that's where they're going back to emotionally. So for Edmond, maybe emotionally he's going back to 5th grade when he had that teacher who really comforted him, and that's why we see him having so many emotions. Let's go back into some of these earliest pod dates. Another very important thing for us to remember in Edmond and KB's earliest dates is that Edmond does tell KB that he is not a traditional man.
Are you looking for a traditional marriage or non-traditional?
Definitely non-traditional.
And she says that she agrees with that. She says she doesn't have to be a homemaker, that she's comfortable being the breadwinner.
I think I'm more so non-traditional. I'm okay if I was the breadwinner. Okay. And I'm okay if my husband was the breadwinner. I'm okay if I cook. I'm okay if my husband cooks. I'm okay if I take care of the kids. I'm okay if my husband take care of kids. I am very much a 50-50 kind of woman.
She's basically telling him other expectations that women may have had of you in the past, you don't have to worry, that won't be the case with me. And this is something that KB actually says quite a bit. She says, I'm different.
I'm also different than most.
I'm different.
I don't see things like the way most girls see them.
And we'll get to more of those examples coming up. But I think this was a very critical conversation because, as you can see, Edmond was very excited to hear KB say that she's non-traditional, because for him that was very important, because he knows the expectations that there may be for him as a man while dating, and to hear somebody who is saying that they're willing to take the lead in certain areas. So this, I think, is really critical, because I do believe that even though KB said in the pod that she is non-traditional, and maybe that is true in some respects, some of those moments where we saw communication breakdowns or disappointment on her end in the real world, I believe was a result of her actually having that desire for a more traditional arrangement. And again, we will get to that. We do see in the lounge that KB is talking, and she's saying, historically, I have wanted an alpha man. I felt like that is what I need, but I'm realizing I don't need an alpha man. I just need someone who makes me feel safe.
Big question that one of the guys asked me yesterday. He was like, you're such an alpha woman, but I keep saying I need an alpha man. And technically I don't. I just need someone that makes me feel safe. Someone that makes me want to open up. And he was like, I'm really not the most alpha man, but I know that I can, when you need me to lead, I'll lead.
So that lets us know that she has typically been in these more traditional relationships, or at least has desired them, where she knows that she's an alpha woman, but she wants someone who's going to also be an alpha man. Now, what I'm hearing her say is that with Edmond, she's realizing that maybe she doesn't need that. So this is very, very important context when we talk about conversations like the security guard nightclub conversation, or the conversation even about the bug in the bathroom. This is very important context for what Edmond thought the relationship was going to be like. Also, when Edmond shares with KB about having this 5th grade teacher who became a guardian for him, this becomes very emotional for him, and he's crying. And KB is very comforting and encouraging about the tears, and she tells him there's nothing wrong with the man crying. And this is where he tells her, I used to not cry, but I've been embracing it these last few years.
Just growing up, like, you gotta be tough and like don't cry. But now, like, I'm getting better with crying. Like, it's nothing wrong with crying.
At all. You're more of a man if you cry, if you ask me.
I think he also thought that when he would cry, that KB would actually see that as a strength of his and not a weakness.
Appreciate you being able to sit here and be vulnerable with me. Like, I know that's not easy, but it actually means that you're strong as hell and you're emotionally intelligent. The strongest people cry.
So I'm not saying that she did, but it did seem like some of these things in the very beginning that were actually appealing ended up being a problem in the real world. And I see this with my couples all the time. As a matter of fact, when my couples come to me and they're in crisis, one of the first things I'll ask them is, what attracted you to one another? And when we go through that list, it's so funny because it's so obvious that even they realize while they're saying it that a lot of the things that they have found attractive about their partner are the very things that are bringing them to therapy today. So it might be something like, I just thought that it was so charming how he could work the room and like everybody loved him. But now you're here because you feel like he's too flirtatious and he's always talking to other people and he's not prioritizing you. But him being extremely social is part of what attracted you. So I think sometimes we have to really check ourselves in asking, how am I responding to the very traits that attracted me to my partner in the beginning? thing. Now, to be fair, KB does make it clear to Edmond that she does not want to have to keep being this tough, strong, independent person who's taking care of everything.
Because I know I can tackle shit by myself, but I just need to know that when there's times where I just need to let my guard down, that you gonna be able to handle it.
Oh, I know I'll be able to handle it, and I'm like ready for it.
Edmond tells her that he will handle stuff for her, take care of things for her, and I don't think that he lived up to that promise in the real world. I think that KB is a very intuitive person, and that it didn't take her very long once they met each other to get an idea that, okay, maybe some of the things that I'm wanting are not really going to be possible with this person. So she ended up testing him a lot. But again, we'll get to that when we get to talking about Mexico. When we get to the proposal, this is one of those proposals where it was endearing, but also a little uncomfortable. It felt a little off balance, right? Because KB comes in with this prepared letter where she tells him what she thinks about him, how much she cares for him, the future she's looking forward to with him.
I have so many emotions running through me right now, but most of all, excitement. You are my twin flame, but also so different than what I'm used to. I pray that I can love so gently, freely, and unconditionally as you. You know that I have battle scars from before, but you're so eager to love me anyway, because you see who I am behind the brokenness.
And his response is,
Thank you. My arm getting sweaty just because I'm about to Calabria Zaire.
cuts off and says, Calabria, will you marry me? That whole interaction, I think, really showed, again, that Edmond has difficulty with recognizing what's appropriate socially at certain times, which I don't think is necessarily a problem. I think you have a lot of people who really appreciate someone who just says what's happening, what's on their mind. Like, they really appreciate that directness. But I think that sometimes in these moments, it just showed how conversationally he and KB weren't necessarily a match. I think KB is a very articulate person, and that a lot of times her points come across a lot more clearly because she has the words and the right tone. And I think that Edmond may also have valid perspectives on things, but he has such difficulty with articulating it that it makes it easier for KB to just be viewed as the truth sayer and Edmond to just be viewed as whatever KB is saying he is. I'm curious about your perspectives on that. I think there was an imbalance with how we receive Edmond when KB is sharing her perspective on him. Then when we get to the reveal, some of the things that stood out to me are some of the things that KB said in her confessional, where she's like, he said that he's going to fix her trauma.
I think that's the biggest thing for me, because he's like, through your trauma, through your hurt, through your pain, baby, I got the glue and I'll fix it. And I'm just like, oof.
That's not necessarily a healthy place to start a relationship from. Now, I'm a strong believer that when you have relational wounds, a lot of times it requires a secure and healthy relationship for you to be fully healed. And that's talked about in a book that we read in my book club, What's on Your Page, called The Origins of You, which is a really great book. I love that book. And it talks about how you have certain relational wounds. And when those wounds are relational, sometimes it requires a relationship to help you heal. But the relationship with yourself is also extremely important. And so you want to be at a point where you feel like you've done the work that you can do to heal those wounds, and you're not expecting another person to come in and fix you. I know it's just semantics, but at the end of the day, she did say that. And she also says, I'm going to love him like he's never been loved before. It's very romantic and sweet, but also it's a way of saying, I want to help heal you. You haven't been loved properly before. I'm going to take on that responsibility so that you can feel loved. When we start relationships out this way, it does create a lot of pressure. And this is also why they have been accused of trauma bonding. I don't think I agree with that just because they were sharing about what they'd experienced in their past. It didn't seem like they were sharing it from an actively traumatized state or space. And so I wouldn't agree that they were trauma bonding, but I do believe that what they saw in the possibility of the relationship, especially on KB's end, was this beautiful opportunity to heal each other. And I really don't even think that was possible in the limited amount of time that they had. Okay, so then we make it to Mexico. This is where a lot of the most significant conversations around KB and Edmond happened. When we get to Mexico, KB brings up a hypothetical situation about if they were at a club together. And she asks him if a man put his hand on her, would he protect her? How would he handle that situation?
All right, let's say we at the club. This big buff guy walk up. He see me holding your hand, and he like, I want you.
In that situation, how would you react?
I'm not gonna feed into it. All right, we can just walk away, baby, come on.
I'm trying to walk, you grab my arm.
I know, then we gotta get like security, cause like he tripping. Cause I can't, like, you need witnesses in the world.
KB was disappointed that Edmond said that he would try to use his words and then he would try to use resources like getting a security guard. And she's saying that she wishes that he would put himself in the line of fire.
I don't cause no confrontation.
So you know that when we leave, I'm gonna be angry with you.
Oh my goodness.
You're supposed to be my protector, and you don't even try to say nothing to him. You don't try to move his hand. You're like, security.
I like that Edmond wasn't just saying what she wanted to hear, because it would have been super easy for him to just lie and be like, oh no, I'm not letting anybody put their hands on you. I actually feel like that is what a lot of men would have said, but when the situation happened, it would have looked very different. Okay, so I think that it was admirable that Edmond was being honest about his character and saying, I'm just not that kind of person that's going to put my hands on someone else. And we really have to take into context the fact that as a Black man, if Edmond is to get into a brawl or some sort of physical altercation, he is more at risk. We have to talk about that. Any person who's getting in a physical altercation is at risk, but I think as a Black man, historically, we have seen that with what our prison system looks like, he is much more at risk. And with Edmond coming through foster care, he knows what that pipeline looks like, that there is a strong pipeline between foster care and prison. If you're not familiar with that, I encourage you to do your research, but I can understand why Edmond has made a commitment to not being physical and just only using physical touch as a way of showing love and respect. He says he likes to handhold or give somebody a hug. He's not going to put his hands on somebody.
The buffiness out. He's your size. You still not gonna get this man hand off me.
He could be in a wheelchair.
And you still not gonna get this man hand off me.
I'm not gonna place my hands on no man. That's not like a handshake or a hug.
I can understand also why for KB, someone who was raised without her father, that she wants to feel protected. She actually does say, I'm also very protective, but I want to be protected as well.
I feel like I'm very nurturing. I'm a protector. I like to also feel protected.
And I think that's a fair need on her end as well, to feel like I want to be protected. But I do think that there is an unhealthy expectation if our understanding of protection only looks like someone putting their hands on someone else to protect us. I believe that is something that is learned, especially within certain communities where a man shows that he is protecting you by being physical, which that's not the only way to protect you. Like Edmond said, he could say, hey, take your hands off of my girl. He could say that. He could also say, hey, I'm going to ask somebody in this establishment who has the authority to put their hands on someone if needed to come and handle the situation. Those are other ways that you can be taken care of and protected. Now, in a situation where it's dire, maybe they have put themselves between you and a bullet, or somebody is attacking you, there's no time to get a security guard, that's different. But the situation that she gave, that was hypothetical, definitely seemed like getting some assistance was a viable option, and KB was disappointed with that. It looked like in that moment she was losing some respect for Edmond. But let's go back to the pods. They originally built their connection off of saying that we're non-traditional, and I think that that expectation for that type of masculinity, I interpret that as relatively traditional, and I'm curious for you all, what is your perspective on that? Then we get to the party where everybody is together in Mexico, and this is where Edmond shot himself in the foot. What is really frustrating is his language choice. All of the guys are talking about their sexual experiences so far with their partners, and Edmond is saying things like, I got a hit.
I respect it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like a big day when we actually have sex. I'm telling y'all, I got a hit before marriage.
Well, you have the rest of your life to hit once you're married.
Anton's trying to talk him down like, is this really your number one priority? He's like, oh, I have to hit.
Anton, bro, if you're gonna tell me you're not gonna have sex with your girl before marriage, you're gonna marry your girl.
It depends on the girl, man. It depends on the situation.
If I don't hit before getting married, I'm gonna start questioning.
Those are the moments where I'm like, are we in high school? Even if you do feel that way, there is a lack of awareness that you're going to be perceived very negatively, even by the people that are immediately around you, by saying things like that. That doesn't sound good. And that's why I say I think that Edmond, he does not have that filter where he's even thinking about how he's going to be perceived, which to me sort of complicates the idea that he's being intentionally manipulative. There's definitely a possibility, but I think for me, it is hard to accept that narrative. And I think that the thing is that because he expresses his emotions in such a different manner than what we're accustomed to from grown men, that it can feel like you're doing this because you are wanting something specific and you're doing whatever you can to get it. I don't know. Edmond just doesn't seem that strategic to me. I'm curious about what your thoughts are. And then when they have a conversation about it and KB's like, well, does it bother you that all the other guys have had sex? And Edmond's like, wait, everybody else had sex?
Did it bother you that we were the only couple that didn't have sex?
Are we definitely the only couple? Yeah.
That didn't bother you?
I ain't know.
Oh, oops.
That's where we start seeing this meltdown, and KB's explaining to him about how she's been in the past sexually and that she wants to do something different because this is important to her and she's trying to build on a connection.
I told you married, so 4 weeks. That's nothing compared to the 9 months I make people wait.
I know, but what are the ones you ain't let wait?
Those was the ones I didn't want with.
And Edmond in that moment starts crying.
The only dude on the trip that ain't get to have sex with you, I'm giving you my all. You let dudes that ain't even care about you, and you like, I don't give a about it, you let them have sex with you? Oh my.
Again, I didn't look at it necessarily as being manipulative, but I did look at it as being entitled to her body and that because they're engaged, they should be able to have sex. These are the kind of things I feel like they should have talked about in the pods. If they did, we didn't see it, but if this is super important to Edmond that he's able to have sex prior to marriage, he never should have proposed to someone who is adamant about that. If they did talk about it in the pods, and if they didn't, they should have. And the same with KB. You should make it clear. I want to make sure that my partner is willing to physically protect me. That should have been part of the conversations too, if that is something that could be a deal breaker. And there's nothing I dislike more than a self-proclaimed nice guy.
I'm just always the nice guy. What me up? Come too nice.
If you are a nice person, let other people say that for you. But when you say and refer to yourself as a nice guy, it feels like a mask that you're wearing. You're wanting to promote this version of yourself, because I don't think most people can be simply put as a nice guy, bad guy. Like, most of us have layers to us. Catch us on one day, in one moment, we would be the villain in somebody else's story. Catch us on another day, we're the victim. Whenever somebody says that, to me, it's a red flag in terms of self-awareness, because a lot of times people do truly believe this about themselves, which means to me you're not really paying attention to all facets of who you are. Because in this moment, for example, while you're crying because someone is unwilling to have sex with you, that is not a sign of being a good guy. So that was a moment where Edmond lost a lot of people's respect. I think KB handled the situation well, because it was very bizarre to watch, and I can only imagine how bizarre it was for her to be experiencing it. That was a moment where I was really questioning if Edmond was ready for the sacrifices that come in marriage, because this is a bare minimum sacrifice, like 30 days of no sex while you get to know somebody. There are going to be so many other things that you'll have to do that you don't want to do in marriage. And we saw some of that coming up when they had some of their arguments even about the Western mixer, but we will get to that. He does ultimately apologize for this and says that he recognizes that he was being selfish.
I really apologize for what I said yesterday. I'm being really selfish. You told me you want to wait until marriage, and I just really wanted you before marriage. But I'm thankful for you, like give me the chance, get to that point to where we can actually make it more special.
Which is good self-awareness, but it does concern me. Did you have this awareness as you were saying it? Because it did go on and on. And it's not like this was some knee-jerk thing. You were already saying to the guys, I have to hit. So it is concerning. In those moments, I'm like, maybe KB had a point about the manipulation, because if you're telling the guys you have to hit no matter what, and then you're now crying about not being able to hit, it's like, are these two things related? Is this your strategy to make sure you hit no matter what? I don't know. I really can't say that with full confidence, but I can absolutely understand why KB interpreted some of his behaviors as manipulative. Then when KB meets Edmond's mom, I saw so many similarities between Edmond's mom and him. That difficulty with emotional regulation, I think some of those social cues, I definitely saw some connections between their behaviors. But some of the things that really stood out to me is that she was essentially talking down on some of her daughter-in-laws that she already has. And she's like, oh, they're telling her sons information about her that she's only telling to them.
There was some daughter-in-laws, they go rat me out to my sons. Can't stand it. Don't go rat me out on my son.
Everything don't gotta go back to him.
Exactly. You are the first one out of the 4 that I have, daughter-in-laws, you are the first one to actually speak up and say, exactly, I ain't gotta go run and tell Edmond everything.
My thought was, what are you doing to where they're having to tell on you? Why has this been an occurrence where you're suggesting it's happened multiple times, where you're telling your daughter-in-law something and she feels like she needs to tell your son about it? That's odd to me. What behaviors are we talking about here? So that was like the standout to me when KB met his family. We never did see Edmond meet KB's mom, but we do see that they had developed some sort of bond by the time we got to the wedding. Then we get to another really big moment for KB and Edmond that people talked about. And what's interesting about this is that I saw a lot of people's perspective shifting to now they're feeling really bad for Edmond and they're frustrated with KB. And that's why I usually wait to do these videos. I know that a lot of you want me to talk about things as they happen, but we already are getting such limited views into these couples. The last thing I can really do is talk about a couple if we haven't seen at least how long they're on the show. The reunion, usually we don't get too much new information out of the reunion that matters for how we're talking about the couples as a whole, but I do like to at least make sure we get all the way up through until they break up. As we can see, there will be multiple interpretations of everything that happened in this moment. I'll tell you what I saw. We've got Annie overcompensating for making sure that she and Nick are positively perceived by the other couples and maybe even by the camera. She says that Nick is perfect. If that's the case, like the arguments we saw you guys having behind closed doors wouldn't be happening.
Oh man, I'm not perfect or nothing like that.
We all have our things.
No, Nick is perfect.
No, I'm not
You're
perfect.
actually right.
Damn.
I'm not perfect.
Just to be able to hear that would be crazy. Even though you're not, just to hear it.
I think what was really happening in this moment was that it was just awkward how Annie said that, and then Edmond's like finding something to say, like, okay, that must feel really good to hear that. That must feel really good to hear that. And KB overhears him saying that.
Like,
Are you comparing your relationship?
no, I'm not. I'm just saying it would be crazy.
It would be crazy.
Now, looking back, I think the reason that KB's ears were tuned into that is because this is something Edmond has said before outside of this situation. He said early on, I like to hear that I'm special. I want to hear positive things.
Sometimes you gotta let me know that I'm the best. I mean, I want to know like that I'm like special.
Because KB says she's very nurturing, she's gonna love on him. He's like, I've never had that before. So for him, hearing those kind things about him would really help him know that he's loved. He seems like he has a words of affirmation primary love language, which is very important. What happens with love languages is that we try to love our partner in our love language. So if I'm an acts of service person, I'm like cooking dinner, cleaning up, all these things. And it's like, how can you say I don't love you just because I'm not giving you compliments all the time? But if that person really cares mostly about compliments, they might be cool with some dishes in the sink. They might be okay with you guys eating out, but what they want to hear is how much you love them. And I find that sometimes we have those love language mismatches. It's extremely difficult to get out of our own ego and give our partner what they're needing. And so for KB, I think acts of service seems to be one of her love languages, which she's doing for Edmond. And then Edmond, I think that gifts seems to be one of his, and also words of affirmation. So he's saying like, KB, I love you, you're amazing. Like he's always telling her those kind of things and she's like, I don't want to hear it. So I feel like what's happening is that she's wanting something specific, he's not giving it to her. He's wanting something specific, she's not giving it to him. So KB is paying attention to this conversation because she already knows Edmond is saying, I don't hear anything positive from you about me. She's already triggered by that because she doesn't want to be told that she's failing in the relationship. But keep in mind, Edmond says, I bet it would be nice to hear that. So is complimenting Annie and Nick, but I don't think it was obvious enough. KB exacerbated that issue. They might not even be thinking like, oh, he's complaining about KB, but when you are like confronting him in front of everybody, now it's becoming a big issue.
You literally just said to hear that would be perfect, would be great. You're comparing, you're making it seem like I'm not doing enough.
No.
If you said it, you meant it. It wasn't a joke.
But then you're like, well, why would you think it's appropriate to talk about that here?
I don't hear no positive stuff from you.
You say you don't hear enough positive? And this is the place to bring that shit up at? Give me another problem now. If this is the place for you to tell me that kind of shit.
I don't want to do this here.
You're the person initiating that conversation here. You're the person who is initiating that. And I'm hoping that in watching it back, she's able to see that she's the person who exacerbated that issue. That if it was something that bothered her, just like she's saying of Edmond, she could have talked to him about that on the way home and been like, hey, what did you mean when you told Nick, it must be good to hear that you're perfect? Allowing him an opportunity to talk about it with her. But she's saying that she was already frustrated with him because earlier that day she needed his help and support with getting everything together for this Western night. There were some things she needed to buy, and that Edmond basically said he doesn't want to be late, so he's not going to help her.
Called you at 3:30 after my appointment. I'm like, can you get in the car, run to the store and get us some belts and some scarves or something, or bandanas, something to be Western. You told me, no, I don't want to be late.
This again goes back to the pods. KB said, I don't want to have to handle everything myself. I know that I can, but I don't want to. And I think that in this moment, this was Edmond failing to love KB in her love language, and then KB also failing to do the same in his love language. Him coming through for her, taking care of these things for both of them would have meant a lot to her. But because he was unwilling to do it, she was already in a vulnerable, hurt position before this situation even happened. So I don't think that she was able to really rationalize in that moment and know, hey, if I bring this up in front of everybody, I'm the person who's going to making it clear that there's an issue. I'm the person who's going to be responsible for bringing it to this group. And Edmond was not responsible for that. Even if she was frustrated with what he was saying, the timing and the place of it, I think she has to take the responsibility for that. And then when they are having conversations and the guys are even saying, you know, just go to her, apologize, Edmond's not able to really speak to her, say I'm sorry or anything without her cutting him off.
I love you.
I don't want to hear that.
I know,
No,
but
Edmond, I don't want to hear that.
I know, but you keep talking.
And then she's like, you won't take accountability.
But really though, I do love you.
Edmond, how many times have I told you that anytime I'm upset, I don't want to hear how you love me and you need me. I want a solution to the problem.
But
no, answer my question. Please stop doing that.
Now, I don't know if he was about to take accountability or not. Okay, we heard him say the I love you thing. This seems like it's something he goes to when he's feeling stressed or overwhelmed. It's something simple. It doesn't require him to be very articulate. Sometimes you have one person in the relationship who needs to talk about things right away, one person who needs time to process their thoughts. Edmond wrote KB a letter that was more expressive than his actual proposal that he gave to her at the reveal. He might be the kind of person who really needs to reflect so he can articulate his thoughts better. And in the moment, the only thing he's able to say is I love you, which is triggering to her because she's like, I want to talk about this right now. KB is good on her feet. We see she's able to really express her thoughts in a very succinct and very intellectual manner. And this is an area that she thrives in. I don't think Edmond thrives and he's like put on the spot and stressed out and doesn't know what to say. And then on top of that, you're like pushing him away. Don't talk to me. You're talking over him. It's not an environment that's conducive to a healthy conversation. Remember, I was talking about good skills for communication. Being in this loud environment around other people while you guys are drinking, when you're already frustrated, the conversation has zero chance of being productive and helpful. And so I think that in that moment, it was an instance of the wrong place, wrong time. She feels like Edmond was making her look a certain way on the camera. But, you know, we talk about accountability. You also have to take responsibility for acknowledging that these are still choices that you're making to bring it up, the way you're bringing it up, walking off, all of those things. Those are still your choices. And what really threw me is that KB was like, am I going to behave the way I would behave a month ago, or am I behaving as the new KB?
I feel like even the argument last night, I was challenged. Do we react how KB would have reacted a month ago? Or do we act as new KB that's engaged and wants to grow with this man?
That's concerning because if your change has only been consistent for a matter of weeks and you've been with this person now it was like 10 days and then now maybe it's been like 10 more days and you're talking about a month ago you were behaving a different way, that means that you knew that you were nowhere near complete with your growth journey. Because when we talk about the stages of change, we talk about change if we talk about maintenance. That's a very short period of time if you're talking about disrupting some behaviors that you're constantly doing. She said this multiple times, am I going to be the girl I was a month ago? That to me means that girl is still there. She's just right under the surface. A month is not a long amount of time for addressing long-standing issues. And so I really just feel like in that moment, it showed me that neither one of them was really able to handle the emotional challenges that can come with a marriage and a relationship. In these moments where we're already triggered, we're not always going to hear what a person is actually saying. Because KB says,
and you go, Oh, I would love to be talked to like that. Then you go. You say, well, you know what, though? You haven't said nothing nice to me all day.
But that's not what he said. That's what she heard, though. So it put her in defense because she took it as a criticism to her instead of a compliment to them. But what I love about KB is that her apologies are always very strong. She takes responsibility and she has an awareness of the areas she needs to work on.
I shouldn't have allowed myself to get as elevated or as heightened. I should be more open to hearing your perspective, even if I don't agree with it or understand it.
It was a true apology. It wasn't just, I'm sorry, I love you. Then we see them in snow for a date, and KB is telling Edmond that you are different off camera.
You're not the same person on camera. And that literally breaks me down, because then every time we're about to do something fun, we get into it because of an asshole remark that you do. Then all of a sudden on camera, oh babe, oh baby, oh babe, let's do this, oh babe. And I'm sitting here standoffish because I don't have my emotions. I'm so sorry. I'm not a fake person. I will not do it.
I can't speak to that because it's happening off camera, so I don't know if it's accurate or not. There have been moments that have happened on camera where KB has a certain perspective on it that I don't agree with. So I can't say, oh, he's definitely acting different off of camera because KB says that he is. I don't know. But I do think, for example, she's like, oh, you keep cutting me off, yet she kept cutting him off, right? We see KB over talking Edmond a lot. She has a lot to say and she typically says it well. She says it with a lot of passion and she does over talk him.
But here we are snowmobiling. I'm in a good mood, looking over, like enjoying this.
You're in a good mood, sweetheart, but you just told me getting out the car.
I'm not in a good mood right now because I know your feelings are everything, so it's messing up my feelings.
You knew I was feeling this way before we got on the snowmobile. You literally told me you don't want to talk to me getting out of the car. And then you got on the snowmobile acting like everything's all happy.
Now you yelling. Now you yelling.
So it's really hard sometimes to really know what Edmond's perspective is on things when he is constantly spoken over. Edmond gets her a gift and he apologizes to her. She said that she was ready to leave and he tells her, no, I really feel like you're making me a better man. I don't want to do this with anybody other than you.
There was a moment on the mountain yesterday where I wanted to take my ring off and throw it.
There's no one else I could want to do this with. You changed me to the best man I could ever be. You're doing everything so right. Like, I appreciate you so much. And it's really only because of you. I'm dead serious.
And that warms KB's heart. I think whenever KB feels chosen, that is what does her heart the most good, because especially when you are coming from a background where you have a parent that you feel like is constantly not choosing you, that feeling of being chosen by someone can really soothe a lot of wounds. So I think that for KB, hearing that from Edmond is exactly what she needed to hear, and she tells him that this is him being a real man.
She did just give me hope with the apology and the flowers. I do fully appreciate you actually being accountable. That was a man that just walked in here and did that.
Which I think is so interesting, this focus on like what a real man is and a different kind of woman. And KB says she's non-traditional, but I do think she's got some traditional desires that she hasn't fully accepted about herself. Then we get to the wedding. I think the saddest moment for me was just the fact that Edmond's mom wasn't there, and that the reason is because she has personal things going on.
My mom couldn't make it. She's got like a couple personal things going on. So sad she didn't come.
This just shows that inconsistency in his life and how many times he has to forgive her or his dad for not being there for him. He has had to figure out a lot of life on his own. He had that 5th grade teacher there who was supportive of him. She's even really pushing this whole like call me mom thing.
Now I'm so used to Miss. It's gonna be Miss West forever. Yeah. Like I want to say Jessie.
Like, at some point you can use my name, or you can call me mom. Mama 2,
Mama 2,
whatever.
Mama 1.
And that can be very disorienting for a person as well, because a lot of our identity is really about the people who raised us. And when you keep being shuffled from place to place, a lot of things like social cues, those things are taught, they're learned. In one household, one thing may be normal. In another household, it's abnormal. In a certain household, maybe everybody's singing, dancing, doing certain things. In another household, if you make any noise, you get in trouble. It's very difficult when you're going in and out of different rules within different homes to establish a sense of self and know what is or is not appropriate, to be able to read a room and know what people are finding odd, peculiar, how other people are acting if you are trying to, not saying that's the goal, but if you are trying to blend in. And I think this just really showed that Edmond just did not have that consistent upbringing to just show him like, like, this is mom, this is dad, they're always going to be there, and I can have the secure bond with them and explore if I want to, because I always have that secure base at home. That's going more into attachment theory, but I think that because of what Edmond experienced growing up, it really impacted his ability to regulate his emotions. It presented difficulty with what you call home, who you call mom, basic things about our identity that do make a huge difference in how we interact with the world. I thought it was super interesting to hear his teacher talk about his history of hyperactivity.
You changed my whole perspective on being in a classroom. In my classroom, first day, you back there dancing, singing, and I'm trying to teach a class. And then I learned, you know what? You were still paying attention to everything I had to say.
Edmond is very aware that he's highly energetic. He refers to himself as being a little kid. That's why he says he wants to be a teacher, because he knows that he can interact with kids in a way where he's meeting them at their level. He just had a lot of energy. And so that hyperactivity, I think, was super interesting to just know that it's consistent with who he's always been. This is not something concerning. I think for a lot of people who are concerned that maybe he's having a manic episode or psychotic episode, I don't know, because again, I can't diagnose. But when you see that there's this consistency between childhood and here, it makes me think this might just be a strong tenet of Edmond's personality consistently. And the really, really sad part is when he tells his teacher after KB says no, that this was his best chance.
And I can't lie, it's so hard out here. This was like my best chance.
No, it's not.
It was.
It's not, Evan.
I've done everything else.
He even says at the reunion that he wouldn't be able to get a girl like KB.
And KB, you are amazing. I would never get a woman like you if it wasn't for this experience. Really.
Can you give me a hug?
I know at the reunion, KB says more about him being different off camera and that she believes that his tears were very strategic.
It was the moments that he would cry. Like, you cry when you see me cry, I understand that. But I'm upset with you, I'm angry with you because you've done something, and instead of like being accountable, you cry, you drop to your knees and say, I just love you so much, I just need you, you're the one for me. That's when I started thinking, okay, this is manipulation.
I can't really speak to that. I don't know if his tears were strategic, only because we saw him crying in situations outside of her. That situation with Brendan where he got broken up with, Edmond was also crying. We saw him crying after the wedding was over. You know, he had to go be by himself. He had a lot of emotions to process. I think Edmond's just a very emotional guy, and that he historically has really suppressed those emotions like we see with a lot of men. He learned how to not suppress, but now we might just be seeing an over expression of those emotions in a way that is not really socially acceptable, unfortunately. Sometimes it's better to just know how a person is feeling and not know the front that they're putting on, but I think that we're in a society where you do have to have a certain awareness, unfortunately, about what people expect of you if you want to be taken seriously and if you want people to respect you. I also thought it was interesting at the reunion where KB is telling an instance of Edmond being strategic with his tears, getting on his knees, and how he was focusing on like, I wasn't on my knees. If
you're crying because I'm like, hey, I don't like when you did this, and instead of saying, oh, you're right, I'm gonna be accountable, let's talk about it, I apologize, and instead you're on your knees crying, telling me how much
Not
you
on my
love me.
knees, KB.
You did that outside when we were moving in when somebody said you were being obnoxious.
You know, it's like a form of deflection, right? You're focusing on that micro detail where we're gonna just talk about whether or not you were on your knees instead of the situation as a whole. Do you remember that moment period of crying outside as we're moving into our apartment? So those are some of the moments where I could see from KB's perspective where she's like, hey, I really feel like you are intentionally trying to misdirect this conversation. Also known as selective attention or red herring, really forms of deflection where we're going to focus on something very small and try to discredit the entire story. So those are my thoughts on KB and Edmond. I really do believe that both of them came in with pure intentions. Both of them wanted to be married. I really appreciate that, especially for Edmond. He's like, he's tried everything else and that's why he's on this show. That's the kind of people I like to see on this show, not people who are like, you know, nobody even knew that you were ever trying to get married or that you were looking for a long-term partner, because that is really making me question your intentions of being on here. It's like, was this really your last opportunity to find love, or is this your opportunity to get famous? I think we saw a real and raw relationship playing out. I just really don't know if we ever had that romantic connection, especially on KB's end. I don't think she was ever fully attracted to Ed Edmond because of his personality. And I think that's fair. I feel like it's okay if you're not attracted, but I don't think that Edmond hid that version of himself in the pods. He was very loud in the pods. He was very energetic.
That's so good.
It does feel good with your yelling ass.
But maybe her imagination carried her away to think that he was a different kind of person than who he really was. Let me know your thoughts on KB and Edmond. I know this is a video that's been highly anticipated, and I really appreciate you guys for watching. I ask that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, share this video with anyone else that might find it entertaining or educational. And thanks again to Growth Therapy for sponsoring a portion of today's video. If you'd like to try them out for yourself, please use the QR code on the screen or use the link growththerapy.co/Stephania. The link is in the description box. I truly appreciate you for watching the video all the way until the end. You didn't have to. I know it's a long video, but the fact that you did helps me out so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you.